welcome to this, and this, as the title says, is my Ring of Honor review for Ring of Homicide 2. This was the second night of the LAX shows for Ring of Honor, in which they replaced the Motor City Machine Guns for whatever reason. I don't think we ever got a clear reason. We got what they told us, but I don't know how accurate that was. But anyways, and also maybe, you know, and the last Gabe show as well. This was the last show he booked before we got to the Adam Pearce era. Now, so we're going to get into that. I'm just going to warn everybody right now that likes the Ring of Honor reviews. You're probably going to see a lot of them, and I'm going to try to spread them out as best I can. But I basically, with the pay-per-view on Friday, I'm going to have 4 shows to do in 3 days. So there's going to be something that's going to have to, you know, be spaced out. It'll probably be the Dayton show, the show before the pay-per-view, but I'm not so sure yet. So I'm just warning everybody of that right now, just so you know. But let's get on with this show, the last of the Gabe shows, and right off the bat, we got something screwy. We got Austin Aries versus Jimmy Jacobs in an anything goes match. And this was basically just to set up Brodie Lee coming into Ring of Honor. Other than that, there was no real reason to have this match. This was okay at best, I would say. It was nothing to write home about. Was not nearly anything as good as their other ones. It went for a long time, but it was a lot of brawling in the crowd. It just was just like hardcore match, and the fans were not into it, as the fans were not into a lot of stuff on this show, and it hurt the show tremendously, because with the lack of production value that Ring of Honor has, and everything else that Ring of Honor has going for it from that stance, from the technical aspect of it, the energy from the crowd is very important, and when there is no energy from the crowd, it hurts the show, and hurts the matches. And as I think a lot of guys are used to feeding off of that, and when they're not able to feed off of that, it just doesn't work. But this was okay. This was just an okay, average, I would say, you know, hardcore match. Like I said, Brodie Lee ended up coming out, helping, and Delirious coming out and helping Austin Aries. Listen to me, Jimmy Jacobs for the win. In a lot of ways, this was to set up, I guess, their 3 matches that were coming up, but it didn't do a very good job. I don't know why this opened the show. There's definitely another match on here that I think could have opened the show, but anyways, there you go. After that, though, it's set directly up to Delirious and Brodie Lee versus Up in Smoke. Cheech and Cloudy making their return to Ring of Honor, and them making the point, or Ring of Honor made the point, the announcers made the point, that they were once part of Special K, along with Lacey, and part of Lacey's Angels, and they made that. And this was fairly fun. Basically, Cheech and Cloudy were out there just to, you know, take crazy spots and be squashed, but that's not a bad thing. I'm not totally against squash matches, particularly when they're fun and there's lots of groovy little moves, and it's all of that sort of thing. But this was fun, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. Actually, I actually enjoyed it more than, in some ways, more than the opening match. So this gets 2.5 stars, but I did enjoy it a little bit more. Next we had Daizee Haze versus Jessie McKay, who came out. Jessie McKay came out with Rhett Titus, Rhett Titus came out, brought out Jessie McKay. Daizee attacks Rhett Titus. This was not a match very much at all. Maybe 2 minutes, was just kind of there. But the story that was told was pretty good, so I'll give it a star. But this was, you know, again, Ring of Honor. Can we actually get like real women's matches, please? Since now you are maybe the only one that can give us that. In between, Prince Nana made his return, and I'm only bringing this up. I usually don't talk about promos and that sort of thing, but I want to talk about this because Prince Nana, if you followed kind of the angle of him trying to come back to Ring of Honor and him being broke is very much over as a face, and it would be awesome if he basically, you know, the poor down and out guy, basically who was rich, went against Larry Sweeney, who's supposed to be the rich super agent now, and they basically have a feud with their stables. I think that would be kind of groovy and fun myself, but that's just me. Then we had another very odd match, as Kevin Steen and El Generico took on the Osirian Portal. If you watch Jakara, you know who the Osirian Portal are. I don't think it's fair to call them a comedy act, but I don't know really what else to call them. They basically are two guys that dress up like ancient Egyptians, and yeah, are one of them acts like a snake. And but as crazy and crappy as it sounds, it's actually very good and it's very funny. And Kevin Steen and El Generico are probably very good opponents to pick against them, but not if they're their world champions. I definitely think you could have found some other guys that are good at comedy matches to work with these guys. The match was really good, though, or I shouldn't say really good, but the match was good, much better than it had any right to be in any stretch of the imagination, as they just went out there and had a fun little comedy match, I felt. And I haven't seen a good comedy match in a long enough time to where I really enjoyed this, and I probably overrated a little bit, giving it 3 stars, but I enjoyed it. I laughed. I enjoy stuff like this, and I wish we would get more of it. You know, the Jakara guys are very good at it. I know I don't do any Jakara reviews, and basically that has to do with, I know if I come on here and I recommend a Jakara show, which might be really good, I'm sure a lot of people will watch it and go, "What the hell is Truthslayer smoking, and can I have some?" Well, send me some, please, because it's not for everybody. But I think that a lot of people that like wrestling and can enjoy a lot of different styles of wrestling would really enjoy it, because it's fun. One thing about Jakara is that it is absolutely, without a doubt, just loads and loads and loads of fun. There's no real question about that. Next we had Go Shiozaki versus Necro Butcher, and this was okay. Because it ended in I guess it ended in a count out or a DQ, DQ, I'm imagining, yeah, you know, though anyways, after all the weird stuff that happened, I don't know how, you know, the stuff that led to the DQ, I don't know why it led to the DQ, but, there was a lot of weird stuff, and this was your basically Necro Butcher match. Necro took a good beating from Go, but, and it was for the FIP title, but it was just kind of there, and it didn't have much of an ending, I would say. I think this, even though it was for the FIP title, would have been a better opener since it was a no DQ, which then led to Delirious and Brodie Lee coming out and attacking Necro, which, you know, set up the storyline as far as that. But I definitely think you could have put this in the front of the show, and it would have been better. And again, the fans weren't really into this, because the fans weren't into almost anything, and it was sickening, because there was some stuff on here that was good, particularly the next match, which I think if the fans had been into it, would have been even better, which was Brent Albright versus Chris Hero. This was a good match. Probably would have been better if the fans had been into it, so the guys could have fed off of it a little bit. I'm a big Brent Albright fan, as a lot of people have noticed. I like Chris Hero a lot too, and they basically went out there, told a really good story with the Brent Albright versus Sweet and Sour Inc. storyline. This was fun. I enjoyed it. They hit a lot of good moves. They did a lot of good things in the ring. Just a very enjoyable match, and like I said, I really wish the fans had been into it. Next we had another match that you would think the fans would be somewhat into, and they weren't, which was a 6-man mayhem match with Claudio Castagnoli, Hallowicked, also from Chikara, Davey Richards, Ruckus, and Jason Blade, and Rhett Titus. Yes, there was a lot of guys in this match, probably too many guys in this match. This was your basic TNA, X Division clusterfuck, and it was just kind of weird. And at this point, the announcing got really, really crappy too. I mean, bad. If they go to TV, they got to find new announcers. That's just all there is to it. And I don't mind the guys, but man, they got to get new announcers. But this was enjoyable. It was your little, like I said, your basic, you know, X Division pay-per-view clusterfuck that TNA often does. But you know, 2 3/4. It was what it was. Next we had Jerry Lynn versus Tyler Black. Another match that would have been very good if the fans had been into it, but they didn't. They were into this more than what they were into a lot of the other stuff. But again, I mean, there was stuff in there that they definitely should have been into that they just were not into, and it was what it was. This was really good. They worked really well together. I really don't think there's anybody that Jerry Lynn can't work with in Ring of Honor. This was just a really good match. 3.5 stars. You know, Tyler Black was being awesome, Tyler Black, and Jerry Lynn was just being, you know, old, crabby Jerry Lynn, slowing the match down when it needed to slow down to, you know, I think Jerry Lynn working with these guys is going to help a lot of these guys out, even though Jerry, you know, Jerry can go, but he can't go like he once was, so you put him in a match with, like, Tyler Black with not a lot of storyline, and particularly since, for the most part, this was a face versus face match. And that's my other big problem with a lot of this show, is that there was a lot of face versus face stuff, and I'm just, you know, I'm just not big into that. Like Kevin Steen and El Generico versus Osirian Portal. Osirian Portal, even though maybe a lot of people didn't know who they were, are a comedy gimmick, and very much are even though in Chikara they're heels, and Ring of Honor, just because of the way they are, they're going to be kind of sympathetic baby faces. So I think if you would have stuck, you know, them versus, you know, even the Age of the Fall or somebody else, I think it would have worked a little bit better. Or you know, there's a lot of tag teams I think you could have stuck them in there with, and I think it would have worked a little better. Just my opinion. You know, and I just don't get that sort of thing. But what are you gonna do? But you know, this was the same type of thing, Jerry Lynn versus Tyler Black, because Tyler, you know, even during this had gotten over with the fans, and the fans were already chanting "Next World Champ" at him. So you basically had another face versus face match where, you know, you probably really needed Jerry Lynn versus a heel. So, you know, you know, I'm not a big fan of face versus face matches, even in Ring of Honor, when there's no sense to them. You know, and I just don't get it. And then we had the main event, which was LAX versus the Briscoe Brothers, which was a bit of a disappointment because, again, the fans really weren't even into this. They were into this more than they were any other match, but they still weren't into it. And when you're talking about particularly Homicide and the Briscoes, who do kind of feed off the crowd, you know, there was just no energy. I mean, Hernandez did a standing suplex that had to be at least a minute. He stood there for at least a minute, and there was like no reaction from the crowd. Now there was other stuff going on during all of this, but there was no reaction from the crowd. I mean, basically, Homicide had to tell the fans, "Hey, look what he's doing. Will you pay attention?" It was just not good. But this was a very good match. I enjoyed it a lot. It started out kind of slow. Homicide was able to be kind of the Homicide from Ring of Honor, which, you know, is a little bit more playful, a little bit more funny, which is good to see. And then it got a little bit more serious as time went on. The Briscoes basically in some ways were playing the heel during this through most of the match, though at the end of the match the fans were cheering for the Briscoes. So, but it was kind of back and forth. Not as good as probably a lot of people had thought it would be, but still a very good match. I'd give it 3 3/4 stars. I did enjoy it a bit, or quite a bit, I should say. And overall, you know, I would give this DVD a 7. I did enjoy it more than I had a lot of other stuff, even though it doesn't have a great match per se on it. I did enjoy pretty much. I enjoyed this more than I did the last show as a show. And there's also a great old school beatdown at the end of this DVD with Sweet Sour Inc. versus Brent Albright, which is pretty groovy too. So I would give this a 7. But again, I think if you watch this, you can definitely see what Kerry probably saw. This was pretty much, I would say, even if you go back to Glory by Honor, just a show that the fans were just kind of bored with in a lot of ways and didn't deliver. I mean, you brought in LAX, which means this show needed to be needed to sell well, particularly on DVD, to cover bringing in LAX. And I think even he saw that this would not be a show that would that would sell well on DVD. And you know, Ring of Honor can't put on good and okay shows. They have to put on great and very good shows pretty much every time out. That's almost impossible to do. Not every show is going to be like that, but particularly when you bring in high-priced talent like LAX, you have to do that. You have to put on, you know, great stuff that people are going to want to buy the DVDs, and you know, they didn't do that. So that's unfortunate. But hey, what you going to do? Like I said, there's a lot of other reviews I want to get done before the pay-per-view, so I will be doing a lot of videos this week. As far as the Q&As, I know a lot of you guys have been sending me a lot of stuff. That probably won't be till maybe Sunday or Monday. I have about 200 questions though, so if you know, don't get upset if I don't answer your questions, because I got about 200, so there's a lot. Other than that, that is it. You guys have a good one, and I am out. I will see you later.